It was a calm Saturday morning when the city woke up to the smell of rain-soaked streets and fresh coffee drifting from small cafes. Among the early risers was Alexander Gray, a name known in business circles as one of the most successful self-made millionaires in the country. He owned hotels, real estate empires, and luxury brands. His world was made of marble floors, glass offices, and silent deals worth millions. But silence, ironically, was also his deepest pain. Sitting beside him in the back seat of his luxury car was his little girl, Emma, only 6 years old, with her hair braided neatly and a small teddy bear clutched in her arms. She had the gentlest eyes, full of wonder and warmth, but she had never spoken a word in her life. Emma was born deaf. And though Alexander had everything money could buy, he couldn't buy the sound of his daughter's laughter. It was a quiet ache he carried every day. That morning, Alexander had promised Emma a little outing. He wanted to spend time with her, something he rarely did. Work had consumed him for years, and after her mother's passing, his heart had hardened even more. He wasn't cold by nature, he just didn't know how to express warmth anymore. When he saw a small cafe on the corner of Willow Street, cozy and inviting, he decided to stop. "Let's get some cocoa, sweetheart," he said gently, opening the car door for her. Emma smiled and nodded, holding his hand as they stepped into the cafe. Inside, the air smelled of cinnamon, chocolate, and fresh bread. The place was small, with warm lights and soft music playing. Behind the counter stood a young woman with a messy bun and an apron dusted with flour. Her name tag read Lily. Her smile was the kind that could melt even the iciest heart. "Good morning," she greeted cheerfully as Alexander walked up to the counter. "What can I get for you today?" Alexander gave a polite nod. "2 hot chocolates and a blueberry muffin," he replied, handing her his black card. But while she prepared the order, her eyes drifted toward Emma, who stood quietly beside him, glancing around shyly. The little girl didn't say anything, but her curious gaze lingered on the cupcakes in the display. Then something unexpected happened. Lily crouched down to Emma's level and, without saying a word, lifted her hands, forming shapes and movements with her fingers. Emma blinked in surprise, her eyes widening. A few moments later, she began moving her own hands, slowly at first, then faster, her expression brightening with joy. Alexander froze. He didn't understand what was happening at first, until it hit him. Lily was using sign language. The entire cafe seemed to fade into silence as he watched his daughter laugh silently for the first time in months. Her little hands moved gracefully, answering Lily's signs, her face glowing with happiness. It was like watching a flower bloom in front of him. The girl who usually stayed behind him in public, afraid to interact, was suddenly alive, vibrant, expressive, radiant. Lily smiled softly, nodding and laughing as she responded. When she finally stood, Alexander cleared his throat. You know sign language?" he asked, almost in disbelief. She smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. "Yes, sir. My little brother was deaf. He taught me before he passed away." Her tone softened, but her eyes shone with pride and kindness. "I'm sorry," Alexander murmured. She shook her head gently. "No need to be. He taught me something beautiful, that silence isn't empty. It's full of understanding, if you know how to listen." Those words lingered in his mind long after he left the cafe. That night, as Emma slept beside her teddy bear, Alexander sat by her bed, replaying what had happened. For years, he had tried to fill the silence with expensive therapies and tutors, but none had given Emma what that young woman had in 5 minutes: connection. A genuine, heart-level connection. The next morning, Alexander returned to the cafe. Lily was there again, humming softly while arranging pastries. When she saw him, she smiled. "Back for more hot chocolate," she teased. "Something like that," he said. Emma ran to her, signing "Good morning," and Lily laughed, responding fluently. Alexander sat down at a corner table, pretending to check emails, but he was really watching the two of them interact. Every gesture, every smile, every flicker of joy from Emma's face was like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Over the next few weeks, their visits became a quiet tradition. Every Saturday, Alexander and Emma would come to the cafe. Lily would greet them, teaching Emma new signs, words like dream, love, and hope. Sometimes, Alexander joined in, awkwardly mimicking their movements, earning giggles from both of them. It was the first time in years he had felt human. One afternoon, as the cafe was closing, Alexander approached Lily while Emma played with dough on the counter. "You're very good with her," he said sincerely. Lily smiled. "She's wonderful. She reminds me of my brother. He used to laugh the same way when we signed together." Alexander hesitated, then admitted quietly, "I've spent so much trying to make her feel normal. But I've never seen her this happy." Lily looked at him gently. "Maybe she doesn't need to be normal, Mr. Gray. Maybe she just needs someone who listens, in her way." That night, Alexander couldn't sleep. He kept hearing Lily's words in his mind. Listen, in her way. He realized that for all his wealth, he had never really listened to his daughter. He had always been trying to fix her silence instead of embracing it. The next morning, he made a decision. He called in a language instructor who specialized in sign language and began learning himself. It wasn't easy. His hands, used to signing contracts worth millions, now fumbled over simple gestures. But every time Emma saw him trying, her eyes lit up. She would laugh silently, take his hands in hers, and guide him. And every time he signed a word correctly, she would hug him tightly. It was the most rewarding business deal he'd ever made. One particularly cold evening, Alexander came to the cafe in a somber mood. His company had just lost a major deal, and the media was already calling it his biggest failure. He sat quietly, lost in thought. Emma looked up at him, concerned, and tapped his hand. She signed, "Are you okay?" He forced a small smile and nodded, but his eyes were heavy. Lily, noticing his demeanor, brought over 2 steaming mugs of cocoa. "Bad day?" she asked softly. He chuckled without humor. "Something like that." She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "You know, when my brother died, I thought silence was my enemy. I hated it. But I realized something: silence isn't absence. It's a different kind of language. It teaches you to feel what words can't express." He looked up at her, truly seeing her for the first time. Not just as a kind barista, but as someone who had turned her pain into empathy. He glanced at Emma, who was smiling at him, signing, "Don't be sad, Daddy." His throat tightened, his eyes misting. That tiny gesture from her, that little string of love without sound, melted something inside him that had been frozen for years. Time passed, and the bond between the three grew deeper. Alexander continued his lessons, becoming fluent enough to hold full conversations with his daughter. He began seeing life through her eyes, noticing beauty in moments of stillness he had always ignored. Then, one day, he arrived at the cafe holding a small velvet box. "Lily," he said, smiling gently, "I have something for you." She looked surprised. Inside the box was a delicate silver bracelet with tiny engraved words that read, "You taught me how to hear again." Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Mr. Gray, I can't accept this." "You can," he interrupted softly. "Because you didn't just help Emma. You helped me. You showed me what I'd been missing." She wiped her tears, smiling through them. "Thank you," she whispered. Just then, Emma ran over and hugged her tightly, signing, "I love you." Lily returned the sign, her hands trembling slightly. Months later, Alexander launched something extraordinary. He established a foundation called the Silent Heart Initiative, dedicated to supporting children with hearing impairments. The foundation built schools, offered free sign language classes to parents, and provided scholarships for deaf students. And at the heart of it all was Lily, now the foundation's ambassador, using her skills to teach and inspire others. During the grand opening ceremony, reporters gathered, microphones flashing, as Alexander stood on stage with Emma and Lily beside him. When asked why he started it, he smiled and said, "Because a young lady once showed me that the most powerful conversations don't always need words." That night, after the event, the three of them returned to the same cafe where it all began. The walls were now filled with pictures of children signing, their smiles brighter than any words could describe. The cafe had a new name above the counter. Alexander, wearing a simple sweater instead of a suit, sat across from Emma and Lily as they enjoyed warm muffins. Emma signed, "I'm proud of you, Daddy." He laughed softly and signed back, "No, sweetheart, I'm proud of you." Lily watched them, her heart full, knowing her brother's memory lived on in this quiet miracle. As the sun set behind the cafe window, painting everything in golden light, Alexander turned to the camera that was recording for his foundation's video. He smiled warmly and said, "If this story touched your heart, remember, love doesn't always need words. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than anything else. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and the power of understanding, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because every heart deserves to be heard, even in silence." The screen fades slowly, showing Emma and Lily laughing silently together, their hands dancing in the light. And beneath it, the words appear. You don't need to speak to be understood. You just need to listen, with your heart. True communication isn't about words, it's about understanding, empathy, and love.